we've got a build for new buddy Colby. He saw one of these Neptune Amphibia builds and wanted one very similar, so we varied it up just a little bit. Okay, Google, volume at 9%. So you might have seen this build before, basically something similar. So what we've got here is we've got a Neptune dial. So these come in the 960 setups, which if you've ever seen a 960, it is, I don't know, they're a little feminine to me. Coke bezel on it, but you can see it's a polished case. It's all tied in. The SS band isn't the best. Got 38 millimeter case, 18 millimeter lugs. It's all tied into each other. You can't change that up. So we went. So basically, you have to buy this at its high price, which these are sold out, and then pull that out. So what I did was I pulled that out. I grabbed a silver seconds hand, popped the loom out on it because that's what I did on the other one, and I thought that looked really cool. So it has the stock paddle hands on it, which are not something you can get basically on really any other of the, I don't want to say lower tier Vostok because I don't know, they add a lot of money into that piece right there for no real reason at all to me. Basically it's the dial that kind of sets it apart. But so much more for that smaller style with everything tied into it. I'm not sure why they do it like that. So I had to grab that to take the guts out. The hands are the same except for the seconds hand we added on there. Swapped it into a brushed 350 case. Then I had to upgrade the glass to add the tension ring in there to add that depth rating on there because the 350s do not come with that. He wanted a black crown on there with the anchor, so we threw in a black cerakoted crown with the anchor. I also like the compass bezel. My guy had one of these left, so these are kind of like, I don't know how you want to describe the bezel itself. And maybe it'll focus, maybe it won't. Bezel and the compass insert are all one piece, and the sizing on this is a little bit smaller, so you can't just buy some of his stuff and then tear it down and use a different bezel in his insert or vice versa. Those are his own spec. So interesting that he does that. Kind of cool. So he has a vision and he wants them to always be like that. I guess that's the way they always are. So that is what it is. We did a brushed engineered band. So with this, if you ever nick this, you can just use the green side of a Scotch-Brite and brush it in. Same thing with this, just brush it straight down. Same thing on the clasp. If you nick the clasp up, just brush it down. Just go in one direction. Don't go back and forth. You'll end up going left to right a bit. Just unless you become good at it, you'll still kind of do that. So just go in one direction for now. Large window exhibition case back on there. Oh yeah, sorry, we lasered it Amphibia to match with the dial. Won't seem to focus there. Your Amphibia rating on the dial. Large window exhibition case back, stainless steel movement holder in there, and a black laser etched rotor. That is the build. So with every build, I go over how these work. Your bezel is held on with a tension ring. I put it on there extremely tight so that you don't accidentally move it, but you can turn it left and you can turn it right. There is no clicking. It is just held on with a super, super, super tight tension ring. So that said, automatic mechanical, you can wind it, you can wear it, you can put it in a watch winder, but if it's dead or you're not going to be very active like at a desk or driving, make sure you wind it up just a little bit so that you're not losing time, especially if you're using this actually for what it's intended for, which is keeping time. So how you'll do that is you'll back the crown off the threads, until you hear it and feel it clicking. You should also feel a little bit of play in there, and you'll know it's off the threads. And a wind is a turn away from you. If you turn it back to you, it's not winding it, but it doesn't hurt it. And it is a lot easier to just go back and forth. So you can do this motion if you want, whatever you want to do there. I just go back and forth so I can do it quicker. If you do it for 4 or 5 seconds like this, even if you're not active, you will keep time throughout the day. And if you do it for something closer to 20 seconds like what I did, you will max out your 31 plus hour power reserve on it, which is what I do to make sure it's running the next day, because I build them and then I let them sit. Which this one I didn't really have to let set because I didn't set those two hands. I just pulled the second hand that was on it and swapped the second hand out. So in theory, the reason I do that is I'm usually setting a dial, and then I'm usually setting hands, and I let it go for a day to make sure that I didn't accidentally press too hard or do something weird and the movement's stuck in the middle of the night or anything like that, So it doesn't happen very often. It did in the beginning. I was still learning in the beginning. And then as I started doing new stuff, using new hands and stuff like that. But so far so good. So anyway, I've been wanting it for a while. I didn't need to. But let's show you some stuff on this. So I set the time on it. But you'll notice you got a date wheel down there. If you pull this out to the one and only click, you can now set your time. Apparently I had it set to PM, not AM there. So now what you'll notice is it changed at that time, but there I only showed you 2 positions, and that's because there's not a date position on there. So that's the one thing that people don't like as much with these style watches, but we go through watches and wear different watches different days, whereas it's not necessarily the case in other places. They're always wearing their watch and it is keeping their time. So it's like what, the 16th today? So what you'll do, let's say we need to adjust it up. So you'll go to where it changes the date, go backwards, and you'll notice that 31 will kind of move over and it'll kick back at somewhere around 8:30 or so. I run it back to 8. At that point, I run it back forward and adjust forward. Okay. Go back and forward. Okay, this is how you do it. Now, if you ever do this, just a little pro tip, if you ever do this and it doesn't change the date, but it makes that clicking noise, go ahead and advance it 24 hours just to make sure that you're not binding up that little spring. At that point, it should adjust forward a day. If it does not, chances are you need it serviced and you need the spring adjusted. But on the one time that I did this and it didn't adjust forward, I went back and tried it again, just a 4-hour jump, and it didn't make any noise and it never advanced again. And then the next time that happened, on a different watch, I did the 24 hours and it did work. And the next time I did it again and it stuck, I did it 24 hours and it worked. So it's almost like something like binds up a little bit. I don't know if that just works it the whole way out. Not really sure. But just my advice. You see it's been adjusting itself the whole way through. Yeah, just a little pro tip. All my custom dials that I do, they do not have date windows on them, other than a couple where they were requested. But not a hacking movement, so let's keep going on you. You can always adjust it 24 hours at a time if you'd like, but this is the quote-unquote quick date set. Okay, Google, what's today's date? Okay, Google, what's today's date?
It is Monday, August 16th, 2021.
Okay, Google, what time is it? Okay, Google, what time is it?
It's 11:52 a.m.
11:52 a.m. And if you might have noticed there, the crown is a wobble crown. It will go back and forth. It will deflect lateral pressure against going into the stem, into the movement. So nothing's broke there. That's just how their head's set up. It's kind of on a little bit of a ball joint. So when you're pushing and prying, it's rotating and not bending the stem or putting any pressure into that movement. So that's your build, man. Hope you like it. It turned out pretty cool. I thought it looked great. Phone doesn't like to focus, but as with every build, it comes with matching beads. Up to you whether you wear them or not. Also, with your build, you're going to come with watch cleaner. This is good on all glass and metal parts, so your whole watch. So, non-streaking, non-toxic, non-residue. And then lastly, you're going to have some fine scratch remover. This is Novus 2 from Amazon, just repackaged. It's kind of like a poly watch. This is an acrylic glass, a thick acrylic glass, but you can scratch it if you do, no worries. Put a tiny, tiny, tiny bit on this. Very tiny. And then use your included microfiber, go back and forth over it against the scratch so that you're filling it. Generate some heat with your thumb, and you should knock it out in about 15 seconds. Then remove any excess. There's enough here to last you your entire watch, unless you're just like scratching it up every day for years. Even then, you'll probably go a couple years. There's enough in here. You just need a tiny bit. You're just filling the scratch. The rest you're just pushing all around the glass for no reason. So, or soaking into the rag. So that is your build, sir. You'll get your build and warranty cards a little bit later. For whatever reason, I never ordered them, and they take about 3 weeks. And I went to go grab them, and I couldn't find them because I never ordered them. So my guy is making them for you, and I'll send those out to you. But that, and for yours, I'm doing one of my vintage slider boxes. Slider box. This part just goes in. Just goes this way. Might be a little tight with heat. You'll find out, but just get a good grip right here on this lip and pull it down. But sometimes in the heat, I've noticed they get a little bit tighter. They swell up a little bit. So I threw a little bit of silicone on the sides, just in case. That would help it go back. And I kind of hit it with a little bit of sanding paper. So that's your build, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching, especially if you're still watching at 12 and a half minutes in. But that is the build. A 350 Commandersky case with a 760 Amphibia Neptune dial. That's the build. So thank you, guys. If you want me to build you something custom unique, reach out and I'll see what I can do. And if you want to continue to see videos like this, like and subscribe as I put them up all the time. Thanks, guys.